So, over the last year or two, one of the brands I've gravitated toward the most is Grand Seiko. I knew I'd eventually own one. The big debate for me was whether to go high beat or spring drive. And a couple of months ago, I made my first Grand Seiko purchase. It was actually a trade, and I ended up with a high beat model. Zero disappointments. I'm really happy with it so far. But ever since, I've still had the spring drive on the mind. Right around the same time I got my watch, a good friend of mine, Lee, who's lent in quite a few watches to the channel, he picked up his first Grand Seiko as well, which was a Spring Drive GMT, the watch we're going to be taking a look at today. We decided to do a swap and give each other's GSs a little test drive, so big thanks to Lee for that. So let's get into the watch. Now, this is an older gen model, reference SBGE011 with the Seiko badging at the 12. There's a few different reasons why I kind of hesitated at first. It took a while for Grand Seiko to grow on me, but one of them is I kind of figured they might be a little on the delicate side. They're such a beautiful watch with the finishes and the design in general, but once you get them in hand, they really have a robust feel. Everything just feels good and sturdy on these watches. One aspect with these watches where I noticed that sort of feeling of robustness is the crown. The crown is a screw-down crown. If we back it out here, there is absolutely zero play or wobble. Now, one thing that may surprise you if you haven't tried a spring drive is the winding action. The mic may or may not pick this up, but I don't think I've ever felt or heard winding action like this before. It's got kind of a gritty-ish feel to the point. If I felt this in another watch, I'd almost think something was wrong, but that's just the way it is with these movements. It's not a bad thing at all, it's just different. So at the first position is hand winding. The second, you can adjust your hour hand independently to the local time with the second hand still running. You also use this position to adjust the date by advancing the hour hand, and you'll see we just skipped over to the 5th. In the third position, we can adjust our time. The movement running the watch is the Spring Drive 9R66. I won't get into all the technicals today. There's some really great videos and articles explaining the movement and how it works, but in a nutshell, the movement is powered by the mainspring, just like your traditional mechanical watches. The mainspring then powers what Seiko calls the tri-synchro regulator. I'll try to get a shot of it, but as opposed to an escapement, we have a glide wheel. The tri-synchro regulator regulates the speed of the glide wheel to maintain an accuracy to within 1 second per day, and that same glide wheel also gives us the smooth sweep of the second hand the spring drive movement is famous for. It's such a unique movement, and Grand Seiko is the only game in town with anything like it, which kind of adds to the cool factor of these watches. The movement uses 30 joules, and the power reserve is right around 72 hours or 3 days, which is displayed on the dial with the power reserve indicator. The dial is a gloss black, and the pop of red on the GMT hand and the GMT text at the 6 give it a sporty flair. The date at 3 is framed in steel, and the font is a little larger than you sometimes see, so reading the date is quite easy with a quick look. The hour markers and hands are finished perfectly. The way they combine the brush and polish work is just top notch. No matter what angle you're looking at the dial, there's at least one or more of those surfaces catching the light, so it's quite an easy watch to read. It probably doesn't show up on camera the greatest, but the readout has markings for the time in 24 hours. It gives it a clean look versus maybe having them on the bezel or something like that. I actually like the sporty look of GMT bezels too, both fixed or rotating, but it works well the way they did it with this design. Now, Grand Seiko is known for many things, obviously their innovations with movements, but they are also famous for their finish work. Same as the hands and markers, the brush and polish work on the case is impeccable. This is an older watch, so there's the odd mark from wear here and there, but it's held up well. There's just something special about a Grand Seiko case. The designs are awesome when it comes to both looks and wearability. You can't beat that side profile either. I just love those lines. The case on this particular model, at least for me, is perfectly sized. It is a little bit thick, but I like it just the way it is. The case on this one comes in at a width of 40.5 millimeters. Lug to lug is a little over 48 millimeters, although the end link here sticks out just a little bit, bringing it to about 51.5 millimeters. The lug opening is 20 millimeters and the thickness is 13.9 millimeters. The water resist is 100 meters and the crystal is a sapphire crystal. The bracelet on the watch I find totally suits the watch, but my one negative, and the same goes for the watch that I own myself, is the lack of micro adjusts. This watch is actually sized a bit too small for me, so I've been wearing it on a strap. I put it back on the bracelet for the sake of the video, but let's swap it back over to a strap here for a second. And here it is. I have it on a sailcloth strap from Artem Straps. Black leather or maybe even a croc strap would definitely dress it up a bit, but with this hot weather lately, the sailcloth has been working great. So final thoughts on the watch. First, this is a really good contender as an everyday watch. It's very easily dressed up or down. It has the robust build quality along with the 100-meter water resist, and to top it all off, the movement is really quite incredible. If you haven't experienced that spring drive sweep in person, it'll get you. It's gorgeous to watch. It's definitely a watch I'd love to own. I'm not sure which model I'll go for, but a spring drive is definitely in my future. So thanks again to Lee for lending this in. If you're on Instagram, give him a follow at LDDone. You can find me there too at TimeToGo 1978. Appreciate you guys stopping by, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.